HotRod Jen here with Paul Quinn from Design Brilliance, and tell me a little bit about yourself, Paul, and your business.
We're in Morton, Pennsylvania, just outside of Philadelphia.
Nice.
We've been in business for almost 35 years. Striping, lettering, custom paint work.
And also, you helped develop a paint, right?
I did. At the time it was DuPont. It is now Axalta is the name of the company, Axalta Refinish.
And sorry Paul, I've been using this paint for about 5 years, but it was developed, when, about 12 years ago?
About 12 years ago it's been out for a while.
Awesome, and I love using it. And tell me a little bit about the paint.
So the paint is a urethane product. It's matched to standard enamel colors, so you guys that are used to mixing enamels can pretty much make the same color combinations work for them. There's about 30 colors in the line, and you know it's a urethane, so it can be used over clear, under clear. It's super durable, and it's pretty user friendly. There's a small learning curve, but
there was a big learning curve for me. But that's okay, because Paul was great, and he's answered a lot of questions for me over the years. So I also want to say that I absolutely love the metallics.
Cool. Yeah, that's one thing that you don't get real good quality out of enamel products, because they muddy up when you mix them. They're not real durable. That's not the issue with this stuff.
Yeah, this stuff, I love the coverage, and also I like the versatility of it. You are more versatile with it because you use it way more than I do. But I use it for striping, under and over clear, like you mentioned. I've used it for airbrushing, which is a little bit new to me, but I've used it like that. And also, I use it a little bit for pictorials, but not like you.
Okay, yeah, I use it all the time.
Yeah, he does gorgeous eagles with this. And let's talk a little bit about how you would mix the paint before I actually show how to mix the paint. If you wanted it to dry really quick, what would be the ideal?
My normal mix with just normal striping or lettering, but mostly striping, would be to take one of the medicine type cups, and there's increments on there. The bottom increment gives you about 1/8 of an inch in the bottom of the cup. From there I would add, fill that up to that 1/8 inch mark, and then I would use the activator, which I keep in a dropper bottle, just for easy dispensing. About 15 to 18 drops of activator in the paint. Mix that up, maybe a drop or two of reducer depending on conditions, and you're ready to go.
And also, tell me about the activator, because this is where someone who had no paint, like automotive paint background like myself, I didn't understand what the activator does. Does this help slow down the dry time of the paint, or does it help speed it up?
It's kind of a little bit of both. Basically, if you don't add the activator, the paint will never have any solvent resistance and it won't be durable. If you add the activator, you can do it over top of a clear coat and it's going to work just fine. It'll be durable. If you over activate it just a little, it will extend the paint, and everybody thinks it's the opposite. If I add more, it'll go faster. It's the exact opposite of that.
That's where I ran into issues. I was like, why isn't this drying? I thought it was supposed to dry fast. But so what I really like about it is if I have a customer, like a motorcycle customer, and they want to ride their bike home, I can quickly pinstripe their job, and then they can go home. You know, I mix it where I get maybe like a 10-minute, 15-minute dry window. But then also I can letter with it and get no brush strokes in the paint by over activating it just a little bit. And then it dries slower, and that's fine because I use all paint, you know, so I'm used to the dry times of an enamel. So over activating this a little bit for certain projects has worked for me.
Yeah, it works out great that way. I would also say in a lettering situation, I would add a couple drops of the high temp reducer just to help it flow even better. But that activator, even if you're not clearing over it, or if you are clearing over it, I would still add the activator even though it's not really necessary. It just gives you better brushability overall.
Absolutely. All right, well, I'm going to change camera angles and we're going to show you how to mix up this paint.
Great. I'm going to mix up some Hot Hues Hot Pinstripe Effects. I like to keep the paint in squirt bottles just because it's easy to dispense it, keeps your hands clean. We're using mixing cups that are basically medicine cups. So we're going to basically put about 1/8 of an inch in the bottom of the cup. And then we're using the activator, which you keep in a dropper bottle, just for the same reason of dispensing it. We're going to put about 15 to 18 drops.
He's got to get his count on.
I'm telling you, in the bottom of the bottle, or bottom of the cup. Give it a little swish, and that's basically ready to go as far as striping with it. You can see it's got a pretty good consistency. And believe it or not, that will cover over black in one stroke.
And also, about how long would that take to dry on a...
Once you spread it out, meaning pull a line, it'll take about 5 to 10 minutes, depending on your conditions.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And why don't you mix up some paint for, let's say, longer dry time, like if you're doing a pictorial or lettering. Let's see what that looks like.
All right, so we'll take the same red. Again, we'll go with the 1/8 inch in the bottom of the cup.
And what activator are you using
This
again?
is the Chroma Premier 12305 activator, which is the standard activator for the product. So we're going to add about double the activator this time.
So that's over 20 drops.
Yeah, so we're roughly 25 drops, 25 to 30 drops actually. And then whenever I'm doing that kind of work, I will take a high temp reducer. This is 7195 reducer, which is designed for high temps, meaning 95-degree temperatures. And I'll add like 2, maybe 3 drops to that.
And that increases
and that gives me a little longer window.
Okay. And also increases the flowability?
Yeah, it's going to lay out flatter if you're lettering.
Okay.
You know, so that would be the way I would handle that.
Awesome. All right. So now that we know how to mix the paint, we're going to show you how to pinstripe with it.
Yep. So one of the things I wanted to make a point about is everyone palettes differently. I personally like to palette directly out of the cup, so I'll use the side of the cup to palette. Jen will palette on an actual palette in this case. If you're working like this, best bet is to use something that's not going to absorb the solvents out of the paint, like a palette paper. This is actually designed for like oil painting. And then the other thing I would recommend would be to have a cup of reducer to work the paint on the palette, because once you start to spread it out, it's going to want to dry a little bit quicker there, and it's going to gum up your brush as you start to palette it. Minor little changes to the way you work, but it's not a difficult thing to overcome.
All right, so this is a fancy Pinstripe Legends 2019 MAC brush. That was the year of our friend Dwayne Canott. And I'm just gonna show you some pinstripes on here. And this is their bright red, or no, royal red.
Which matches bright red.
It matches bright red in a lot of the enamel color lines. Panel's clean, but I want to show you guys, like right now I just pulled those lines, and now I'm gonna repalette my brush a little bit. If I had a Stabilo, I would do a design for you guys.
We can make that happen.
We can make that happen. But the coverage of this paint is really good. Okay, so I just dipped the tip of this in a little bit of paint and a little bit of reducer, and I paletted it out on the palette.
You notice she's not getting any drag in that brush at all. It's just a nice, smooth line.
It's very fluid. Now I just repaletted without picking up any more paint or any more reducer. I just corrected my brush hairs. And the paint is still very fluid. Repalette again without adding any paint or reducer, just correcting my brush hairs again. Still very fluid, no drag. I'm going to add a little bit more paint. Palette the paint in. And it is really, really nice to flow with this paint. Like I said, like once you get that mixture down and you understand how to mix that activator into the paint, it flows like your traditional enamel, but it dries really quick and it's easy to clear over. It maintains a very high gloss standard and it covers really nice. I'm gonna hand the brush off to Paul and let him add on to this design for you. All right, so I made Paul palette on a palette.
And I don't usually use the standard Mac brush. I use a metal ferrule brush, but we'll give this one a run.
Yeah.
Wanted to make a point. Jen just painted this a few minutes ago. And even it's all dry to the touch.
Isn't that something?
So in that case, it works really nice. You know, if you stripe a motorcycle and you get a guy who wants to put his knees in the side of the tank or something like that, you don't have that issue with him hurting the paint.
Yeah. It's great for doing striping at shows.
Yeah.
Where people want to pick up their items and head home.
That could go out in the rain in another 5 or 10 minutes and it wouldn't be an issue.
Yeah.
You know, it saved me a couple times at shows where the weather was threatening bad.
Yeah.
And I was able to finish jobs and get them out and not have to worry about it.
Nice. And also, usually when I'm working with enamels, I tell people don't wax until 30 days pass. What do you say to people?
I usually say give it at least a week.
Nice.
I haven't used one of these brushes in a long time.
It's like riding a bike, isn't it?
It is indeed.
And see, when he palettes out of the cup, everything stays within that cup.
And this is just the way I learned to work in car shows because that's all I had to carry down the length of a car or around a car as I was working on it.
Yeah. Yeah, I can palette a lettering brush in a cup, but I can't with a pinstriping brush, so Paul definitely has one up on me on that department.
I got a couple years up on you in that department.
Yep, yes you do. And I'll say me and Paul have done a few panels together in the past. It's nice working along someone sometimes on panels like this.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun that way. One of the things I wanted to show you also with this, everybody gets intimidated with urethane because it does dry so fast. So I'm going to show you something real quick. Just going to go over here and get some wax and grease remover. And this is Axalta's Final Clean. Ooh,
okay.
Sorry, wrong can.
Yeah, what happens if you make a oops?
Well, if you make an oops, this is Axalta's Final Clean 3901 wax and grease remover. So this has been dry for quite a while.
There you go.
And look how clean that wipes. There's no haze.
Fixes an oop.
And, you know, you can come back in now and kind of change your design if you need to.
Nice. And also, what other products would you be able to find at a local hardware store that might help you with cleaning a quick oops, right after you pull the line?
You can You can use rubbing alcohol, denatured alcohol.
Okay.
Either one of those will work. They tend to leave a little bit more of a haze.
Yeah.
So you might have to wipe a little bit more to get that clean.
Yeah.
The wax and grease remover, anything that evaporates pretty quickly in that regard will do the trick.
Awesome.
So.
Thanks for that tip.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, so maybe 4 minutes have passed since
4 or 5, yeah.
Yeah, we've played on that panel. So when you need to wipe off and you're at home, and let's say you don't have the Hot Hues.
Well, the
Final
clean or any good wax and grease remover that evaporates quickly.
But let's say you have rubbing alcohol at home.
We do indeed.
Let's see what rubbing alcohol will do.
And as you can see, that's actually left a tiny little bit of a haze where the stripe was, but you can come back and clean that up.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah, you can fix your mistakes with this, even though it dries really fast and it gets in there.
Oh yeah.
But there's a way you can clean it up. And what happens if, say, like a week from now, you would need to clean this up? What would you recommend for that?
You'd really almost have to wet sand it.
Okay.
What I do in that case, I recently had a fire truck that I had to take some lettering off that had all the outlines and shadows were done using Hot Hues. And basically I'll take a hard rubber block and wrap it with 1000 grit 3M 1000 grit wet or dry paper and basically wet sand it till you break it down. And if you want to, you can go ahead with acetone ahead of time just to help soften it up a little bit, give it a little bit of help it break down some. I've also used Bonami cleanser in a case where I didn't have sandpaper accessible, and that's almost like a real fine grit sandpaper. Use that with a little bit of rubbing alcohol and it'll act the same way. Takes definitely a little bit longer. The only difference is you're going to have to sand and polish or you're going to have to polish the surface after the fact.
Yeah.
Depending on how big it is, you can get away with hand polishing in some cases. Some guys will do it with monograms where they just do that small little area, hand polish it, and either put a new monogram on or pull the stripe back through the area, whatever has to be done.
Nice. And let's say, talk about cleaning. After you pinstripe something, and let's say this is going to be under clear, and the painter is going to clear over the stripes, what would they clean over your stripes with to then prep for clear?
Typically, you'd want to use a waterborne wax and grease remover as long as it doesn't have a high concentration of alcohol in it.
Okay.
Just to be safe. A nice one is a product called Rapid Prep. It's a waterborne wax and grease remover. Also, there's one called Polycracker. Both of those will work. Most paint companies, because of the advent of waterborne base coats, have a water-based wax and grease remover.
Nice.
So.
And now I want to see how this letters.
Okay.
Let's set paint up and
Sure
the
thing.
panels up for that.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to have Paul show you an example of some lettering with some primrose yellow with the paint on a black panel.
Nice.
And how many drops of activator did you add to this? And also, did you add any reducer into your cup?
So in this case, I added no reducer. It's about 1/8 of an inch worth of paint in the bottom of the cup, and it's about 22 drops of reducer. Activator.
And did you add any reducer to this?
No reducer at all.
Nice.
Depending on my conditions, I would add only a drop or two of reducer in any case.
Okay. And what brush are you using?
This is a Quinn Mac lettering quill. It's an extended lettering quill made by Mac Brush. And it's one of my signature series brushes.
Nice. And I've used this a few times, and I gotta say it is nice for script. And it's also nice for outlines. Big, bold outlines. It has a nice pull to it. Nice coverage on that black panel with this yellow paint.
Again. clean up my ends.
Yeah, and this is just a sample video. It doesn't have to be perfect, but Paul is a legend, and it's hard not to be perfect, right, Paul?
I do lots of things to dispel the myth that I'm perfect. Like misspell stuff and drop paint on things.
I think when you're in the business long enough, you know, everyone does that.
Oh yeah.
Alright, so what happens when you want to start cleaning your brush out? Because this is a urethane, it's not an enamel, so you need a heavier solvent than mineral spirits to clean out your brush. So what do you use, Paul?
So I typically use 2 cups when I'm cleaning out the brush. Everybody worries about how hard this is going to be on your brushes. Some of these brushes I've had for years and I just keep using them over and over, and I don't have any problems other than the normal loss of hair that occurs with a brush. So in this case, I've got 2 cups here. What I usually use in the first cup is lacquer thinner, and then I'll do some urethane reducer as my final wash. In this case, both of these are reducer because that's just what I had handy. So I'll just swish out with the first one, and as you can see, almost all of the paint has come out of the brush at that point, with a little bit except down by the ferrule. Blot the brush dry so you can see what you got to deal with, and second wash. Give it a little spin, and that brush is back to new.
Nice.
And oil as you would normally.
Yep. And I'm going to come in here and clean this pinstriping brush out. I usually pinch the paint off before I put it in the thinner. Get in here, swish it around. And I like pinching. I don't really like pulling my brush.
Now, you never want to pull the hair of the brush. You want to
Yeah.
blot it dry, or as Jen said, pinch it dry.
Yeah. And then this is the reducer. Now, when I work with it on the road and at home, I will have the lacquer thinner and reducer, and then I also, because I change colors out a lot, and I'll use another color, and when I'm setting that second color up, you know, I don't like my hairs drying too much, so a lot of times I'll hang it in mineral spirits, just to hang it in something that's a fluid. And then after I'm done with it for the day, I will take it, clean it out, and then dip it in oil and store it. And that's how I usually end up cleaning my brush. But yeah, it's nice and clean now, and yeah, so that's awesome. You know, it does not destroy the hairs of the brush.
Not at all. And the key is you really need to oil the brush when you're done, regardless. That just replenishes the natural hairs because it is a natural hair brush. That's what gives that brush its bounce, its spring, its ability to do its job.
Yeah, it works great. All right, so one of my favorite things about Hot Hues, this paint line has the best metallics I've seen so far. And I enjoy using the silver, the gold. This is my favorite color on probably the whole line, but let's go over the metallics.
Okay, so everybody struggles with metallics for a couple of different reasons, and the main reason is that metallic content has a difficult time flowing off the brush. We're using the finest metallic content that we can in the product. One of the nice things about it is it doesn't leave a change of color when you stop a line and pull back into it. Say you were doing a coach line down the side of a car and you pull, say, 3 or 4 feet, and you have to reload and come back into that stripe, you're not going to see that funky change of color because metallic will reorient and lay down. And we'll give you a little demo on that here. The other thing that's really sweet is you can mix almost any of the other colors into the metallics and get really cool metallic color combinations. And they don't muddy up.
Yeah, and they also don't split.
Right.
That's really nice to see, being able to add another color into it. And
Sure.
it doesn't devalue the metallic content.
Exactly. The other thing is you can mix the metallics together and get different color combinations from those as well. So you actually take what could be a 30 color line and turn it into a 90 to 120 color line. Probably even more than that. But let's start off with just the silver. Jen, you want to pull a line here, and I'll mix the color up for you.
And when you are mixing a metallic up, do you change how you activate it at all?
I activate it the same way, but I always add a drop or two of reducer to it. So again, we've got the 1/8 inch in the bottom of the cup. I'm going to go about 18 drops of activator. And then, do you use reducer when you mix it? Okay, so we'll add 3 drops of reducer. So there we go. You can see it's some real nice, clean metallic silver.
And it stays suspended really well.
And there you go. You are ready to roll.
And I'm a left-handed palette painter here.
Pull one line to full length of the panel just so you can see how well it flows for that length and covers for that length of.
I have height issues here, so.
You want a stool?
No, I'm good. I might need a ladder though. Just keeps on going.
Yep.
And I'm not losing any metallic or opacity value. I ran out of panel. So, I mean, that's awesome. I'm gonna bring the camera in and so this is like a 24-inch long panel. That's full coverage, top to bottom. Didn't lose any opacity. Didn't you lose any metallic value. And that's great. Yeah. That's absolutely great. And that's very beneficial when you're doing coach lines on vehicles and lines around signs and all that. And then why don't you start and stop a line for us, and I'll zoom in and so you can see it in action. Okay. So Paul's gonna start and stop.
So now I'm reloading the brush, just going to pow it out a little bit on the card there. And I'm going to start 3 or 4 inches back in, which is what I would normally do even on a coach line on a car. And you cannot tell where I stopped and started because the metallic just reorients itself. If I could keep the panel from moving on it, we'd be golden.
Nice. Beautiful coverage. You can't tell where he starts or stops. Great coverage. So let's see what these bad boys look like when they're mixed up.
So this is one of my favorite colors to mix out of a metallic. So I'll take the metallic gold and we're going to go, I think we're right about 1/8 of an inch there.
Yep.
I'm going to add 50% more in another color. So we're going to use the emerald green. If you had used an enamel color to do this, so now we're at the second increment.
Wow.
So
that's a lot of solid paint to mix with a metallic.
In most enamels, that would muddy out. In this case, what you end up with is a gorgeous metallic green.
And that stays suspended. So now you created a whole nother new metallic color line.
Yep.
With the paint.
So obviously we have to activate this a little bit more because we have more quantity. So I'm going to go just about 30 drops.
And let's say, and this is for pinstriping, let's say you wanted to letter with that mix. You would add a little bit more activator?
I would go a little bit more,
Okay.
and I would still keep my reducer about the same.
Okay.
Until, just, you have to determine what feels right to you.
Yeah. And also, our environments are different.
Right.
So if you're in a hot climate, you might have to adjust for that.
True enough. So... And how's that for flowing coverage?
That perfect coverage.
Now let's.
And I don't know if you guys can tell on the camera, but I can tell you guys right now, this is metallic. That's real nice.
That's a solid color and a metallic color. Here's another cool combination, which is Jen's favorite color to start with.
And what's the name of the color?
The Xenon Purple, or Xenon Purple. And there you can see it real up close how
This
cool that metallic is.
so insanely vibrant in person when it's laid out on black.
And then take some of the Teal Tease metallic.
So this is two metallics
And we're
together.
going just about 50-50 again.
Now these are the two. That's that teal. And then this, it's like a hot magenta almost. And then this is the color we get out of it. It's like a gorgeous, deep, bluish purple metallic.
And then again, we'll activate that. Now, I didn't add any reducer to this, so we'll see how it pulls without the reducer. It's fairly cool here today. It's about 70 degrees. So we shouldn't have any problem. It's not breezy or anything. We're indoors. So that kind of shows you what's going to work for you and not work for you. If it's windy, it's going to dry a little faster.
Right here you can see the metallic. It didn't dry out at all.
Nope. And again, the coverage is solid from end to end.
Yep. Very nice, Paul.
So.
Alright, so I'm going to show you a little casual lettering with the silver here. You can see how well that covers.
And flows.
And flows, yeah, absolutely. This is where I can actually palette in a cup.
What brush are you using there, Jen?
This is a MAC 179 lettering quill. And I think this is a brown hair. And this shows you how well that metallic lays and also covers. I should have pulled that in one pull, but
I mean, you're not perfect either.
I am not, Paul. I like the bottoms of my S's a little bit thicker. But this is great coverage and it flows real good. Now this was activated and had a little bit of reducer in it, and that's it. But that is the coverage of the metallic. Very nice.